Welcome to the Tell Us Ellis podcast.
Welcome back to the Tell Us Ellis podcast. Happy to be with you today. We are going to do two things in this podcast. Number one, we are going to do the weekly power ratings for MLB. I've kept that up. We are now in week 5 and excited to go through that with you. The more I look at MLB right now, you have these top tier teams, a very small amount of top tier teams. Maybe it's 4 top tier teams. You have a bunch of kind of middle tier teams and then a few really bottom dwellers. But it is interesting this year. I feel like it's kind of a year unlike others in a way. So we'll get into that. But then I also want to do the week in review from a professional wrestling standpoint, the shows I've watched, the matches I've watched, how I rated them. We're going to look at several different promotions, WWE and AEW being the primary ones, but also TNA, NWA a little bit, and then some of the WWE and AEW minor promotions, Ring of Honor, NXT, things like that. So excited to get into that with you this week. Remember, please, as you watch these shows, please subscribe, whether that's on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Make sure you subscribe. Got some more subscribers. That's really good. Please keep that up. Also follow me on my social media channels at TellUsEllisHQ. You can find me on X. You can find me on Instagram. And then finally, if you have any questions, want to join the show, have some thoughts, please email me, jamie@tellusellis.com. So without further ado, let's get into the week that was MLB. Okay, what I have on the screen right now is my week 4 ratings, where I finished my week 4 ratings. This is labeled week 5 because by the time we're done, we are going to go through all of these. I'm going to start at the bottom as always and work my way to the top. And I'll tell you, the White Sox fans, which I live close to Chicago and know several White Sox fans. I know I didn't get a lot of love last week when I had them 30th in the league. I will tell you that I'm going to move them out of the 30th spot. I will tell you that there is a new 30th team, and I am taking the San Francisco Giants all the way back to 30th. The Giants just continue to not impress me. And by the way, I'm doing this through games of Saturday. I'm recording this on a Sunday, but there's still games going on. In fact, as I look, the Orioles are losing by a tremendous amount right now to the Yankees. In fact, that one might be final. Just to give you guys an update on it, not that you care unless you're an Orioles fan, they lost 11-3 and just got swept by the Yankees. So that's wonderful. Maybe they should be last. But the Giants are sitting here at 13-20, 6.5 games behind first place. Last week they went 0-5. They're 29th in the league in hitting, and while their pitching's a little bit better than that, I just have no confidence in this team, and I'm moving them back to 30th. That's 5 spots back. That might be unfair, as I always say every week, but that's just where I have them, and that's where I'm keeping them. So the Giants, number 30. I'm going to keep the Rockies at 29. Again, Rockies, they were 1-4 last week. I do see some good things happening there. The Rockies are 14-20, but I'm going to keep them at 29th. I am going to move the White Sox into the 28th spot, and some may feel that's not good enough, but remember, I'm looking at the whole body of work here. The White Sox as a team are 16-17, not bad. They have brought up some young talent. Murakami, who they brought over from Japan, is hitting the ball with a ton of authority, a lot of power there. So I said during my preview that the White Sox to me, were one of the most improved teams in the offseason, but I did caveat that by saying they're still not a good team. They are showing something here, though. They're 16-17. I'll put them in the 28th spot, and that's up 2 spots from last week. So I think fans should feel good about that. I'm moving the Cardinals out of 27th, and I am finally moving the Twins back. I keep trying to think this team's going to do something. You know, I didn't like them at the beginning of the year, though, in fairness. They were 2-4 this week. The Twins are now 14-20. I don't see a lot of hope of them turning things around. I'm moving them to the 27th spot. 26th, I'm keeping the Angels where they are. They also had a bad week last week. They went 1-4. Don't have a lot of hope with the Angels, but I'm not moving them around. I'm keeping them where they are. The Nationals, I actually moved up to 25th. And, you know, I look at that and I started kind of questioning myself a little bit. They went 2-3 last week. They're 15-19. They're not playing bad baseball. They're in a tough division. The Braves are running away with it. But I like what I see from some of their young players and how they're playing. Overall, they're 21st in the league in hitting, so not great. And their pitching is even worse than that at 28th in the league. Again, I'm talking about the bottom tier teams here for me. 25th, Washington. I wouldn't read too much stock into me moving them up that far, but I do have a little bit more confidence in them. 24th, I'm going to move the Marlins out, and I'm going to move the Cardinals up to 24th. And for the Cardinals, that's a jump of 3 spots. Look, the Cardinals right now are 20-13. They just completed a 6-0 week. Again, that doesn't include the games of Sunday. They're really showing a lot here. They're 7th in the league in hitting, which is surprising, and their pitching isn't as good as that. They're 25th in the league in pitching, but this is a very proud franchise, one that wants to win and does win. They don't have a lot of losing seasons. They've hovered around that 500 mark the last couple of years, but they're starting to show me something. And can they stay in this race in a division that's a very competitive division? We'll see. But I moved the Cardinals up to the 24th spot. That's up 3 spots, by the way. The Astros, I'm moving back again. Look, the Astros can hit the ball. They can flat out hit the ball. They're 3rd in the league in hitting with a 789 OPS. They are dead last in the league in ERA at 5.87. That's almost a run lower than the 29th team in baseball. I think it's time that Houston hits a reset. You could see it coming when they lost Framber Valdez. They've had some injuries. I'm dropping Houston to the number 23 spot. The Royals, I'm going to keep at number 22. They're starting to play a little bit better baseball, which is good. They were 3-2 this week. They're still 14-19, have a lot of ground to make up, but I'll keep the Royals at number 22. Number 21, I'm going to move the Marlins into the 21st spot. So overall, that bottom tier stays the same, just with a reshuffling of the teams. The Marlins are up 3 spots, and this is just based on a little more confidence I have in them. They're 3-2 for the week. Overall, that they're 2nd in the National League East, 16-17. Granted, that's 7.5 games behind the Braves, but the Marlins are playing some pretty good baseball. I figured they would be able to pitch a little bit this year, and they're 13th in the league in pitching at a 4.01 ERA, which is actually a little worse than I thought they would be, but by no means bad. But they're 12th in the league in hitting with a 714 OPS. That's a little surprising to me, so I have them at the 21st spot. All right, moving into the next to the bottom tier, I'm keeping the Mets, the Orioles, and the Red Sox all the same. The Mets at 20th, the Orioles at 19th, the Red Sox at 18th. Why am I doing that? Well, the Mets went 2-3, the Orioles went 2-3, and the Red Sox went 2-3. No need for me to move any of those teams. They are still all 3 very disappointing this year. I'm not even going to get into the Orioles. I don't have the heart to do it. All right. I'm going to take Cleveland out, and I'm going to move the Athletics back a spot to 17. Probably more to do with Cleveland than it is the Athletics. The Athletics for this week, they were 2-3. They lead the division with a 17-16 record, which is great. But I had to move them back a spot because, again, I wanted to move the Guardians up a spot. And the Guardians just keep playing surprisingly good baseball. And for the week, the Guardians were only 3-2, but they're still leading their division with an 18-16 record. And, again, they're playing pretty well. They're 14th in the league in OPS with a 710 OPS, and they're 9th in the league in pitching with a 388 ERA. When I see that consistency in both hitting and pitching, that tells me something. And I'm moving the Guardians a spot ahead of the Athletics. All right, I'm going to move Tampa out of the 15th spot, and I'm moving the Phillies back to 15. The Phillies this week played a little bit better. They were 4-1. They are still, though, next to last place, only because the Mets are that bad. But the Phillies are 13-20, 10.5 games out of first place. I always dive into the statistics to see, maybe they're playing better than their record indicates, but they're 27th in hitting at a 672 OPS and they're 27th in pitching with a 4.82 ERA. This is not a good team right now. The Phillies are not a good team. They probably should be lower, but I just have some thoughts that they'll turn it around at some point. But right now I have the Phillies at 15. All right, I'm going to move the Diamondbacks from 13 to 14. The Diamondbacks finished the week with a record of 1-4. They kind of fell back to earth a little bit. Diamondbacks 16-16. They're playing 500 baseball. That's probably about what I expect them to be, maybe a little bit less than that. So I moved the Arizona Diamondbacks back a spot. I moved the Rangers back a spot to number 13. The Rangers, boy, these two, they just seem tied together for me, to me for some reason. The Rangers were 2-3 as well. The Rangers are 16-17. I see them very similar to the Diamondbacks, and that completes that bottom to last tier. So now we're getting into the top 12. And when I look at the top 12, again, there's 12 playoff teams in baseball. This does not mean these are the 12 teams that I think will make the playoffs, but as I rate these teams, these are the 12 teams that I think right now are best in baseball. I moved the Padres all the way back to 12th, and that may seem a little unfair. That's 5 spots back. The Padres did not have a great week. They were 1-4 this week. They're still 19-13. And, you know, you may ask, well, then why are you moving them back so far? Well, when I look at the Padres from a hitting standpoint, they're 26th in baseball. They have a 682 OPS, you know, not anything to write home about. And then pitching-wise, they're 18th with a 4.34 ERA. So the combination of those two things, again, they're in my top 3 tiers. I just have them at the back of the 3rd tier. Number 11, I'm going to move the Blue Jays out of 11, and I'm going to move the Tampa Bay Rays into 11. And for the Rays, that is up 4 slots. And why am I doing that? Well, this team, they're 4-1 last week. The Rays are now 20-12. And again, it's just one of these things where I'm starting to believe in them. From a hitting standpoint, the Rays are 18th with a 704 OPS. From a pitching standpoint, they're 8th with a 3.84 ERA. So I like this Rays team. They're showing me a lot. They always surprise, and they're doing it again. Maybe it shouldn't be surprising, but I have the Rays at number 11. I'm actually moving the Blue Jays back up slowly but surely. They were one of my top teams to start the year. They moved back. Now I'm having them move back up towards the front. The Blue Jays were 4-2 this week. They're now 16-17, just 1 game below 500. And again, kind of making their move for me. When I look at their hitting, they're 22nd in the league with a 697 OPS, which is pretty disappointing. And when I look at their pitching, the Toronto Blue Jays are 15th with a 4.20 ERA. So again, I see them making improvements. I have them in the 10th spot, and let's keep moving it forward. I'm keeping the Mariners right where they are at number 9. The Mariners last week were 2-3. They are now 16-18, starting to hit the ball a little bit better. Their offense always starts off a little slowly, Julio Rodriguez especially, but now they're up to 19th in the league with a 702 OPS. And their pitching has been phenomenal, 6th in the league with a 3.68 ERA. I expect good things from this Seattle team. I think they're going to start hitting the ball, and they're going to move their way up. So I have them at number 9. I'm going to move the Brewers out of 8, and I'm going to move the Pirates back to number 8. You know, I had them at 6 last week, and I may have been gushing over them maybe a little bit too much. Last week, the Pirates were 2-4. Right now, they're last in the NL Central, but they're 18-16. They're just 3.5 games back. So just because they're last doesn't really mean anything. Slowly, though, I am starting to fade them a little bit. And you know, their pitching is really good. 3.79 ERA is 7th in the league. Their hitting is 8th in the league with a 7.33 OPS. I don't want to move them back too drastically because their hitting and pitching is pretty good. But right now, I have the Pirates at 8th. That's back 2 spots. Team that I do see on the move is the Detroit Tigers, and I've been saying this for a while. I think this Tigers team is going to move. They're 6th in the league in hitting with a 739 OPS, and they're 11th in the league in pitching with a 3.90 ERA. Right now, Detroit's 17-17, just a game out of first place in the American League Central, playing a lot better baseball. The Tigers last week were 2-3, so their record doesn't necessarily show they're playing good baseball, but they are. Fundamentally, their stats show that they're playing better baseball. So I have them up 3 spots to the number 7 spot. I'm going to drop the Reds back to 6. I still think the Reds are really good. You know, they're starting to hit the ball better. I said that last week. 691 OPS puts them 25th in the league. They were 30th a couple of weeks ago. It's their pitching that's going to carry them probably. And, you know, their pitching over the last couple of weeks has not been great. They're pitching to a 4.55 ERA, so they have to improve that. The Reds overall right now are in 3rd place in that division, but a 20-13 record is pretty darn good. I have the Reds as the 6th team in baseball. The Brewers, I'm moving them back up. They're going to get healthy here soon. Jackson Chourio is going to be off the IL pretty soon. The Brewers this past week went 4-1. The Brewers are now 4th in the American National League Central with an 18-14 record, just 2.5 games out of first place. When I look at this team, again, I think they're going to start hitting the ball much better. They just have too much talent on that team. They're 23rd in OPS at 695, but they're 4th in the league in pitching with a 3.53 ERA. I've always felt good about having the Brewers in this top group. So I'm happy to put them there. I just think they're playing that well. I'm going to move the Cubs back 1 spot, and Cubs fans aren't going to be like me for that. They're going to say, we went 4-1 and you moved us back a spot. I hear you. Look, I think the Cubs are really good. 4th in the league in hitting with a 775 OPS. They are 10th in the league in pitching with a 389 ERA. They're really, really good. But I moved them back a spot because I had to move the Yankees up to 3. And the reason I moved the Yankees up to 3, not just because they swept the Orioles, but they were 4-1 going into today, so they're now 5-1, but they're 22-11 overall. And just they're 5th in the league in hitting. Their OPS is 773, and their pitching is 1st in baseball. Their ERA is 2.99. They're a really good team that didn't do a lot in the offseason. I'm surprised myself that I have them here, but they're just that good, which leaves 2 teams at the top. We've got the Braves and we've got the Dodgers. So who's going to fill which spot? Well, let's see. The Braves went 4-1 last week. The Braves are now 24-10. The Dodgers only went 1-4 last week. So maybe is that enough for me to move the Braves past the Dodgers into first? The Dodgers are still 20-13. Look, here's what it comes down to. The Atlanta Braves are 1st in the league in hitting with a 796 OPS. They're 2nd in the league in pitching with a 311 ERA. The Dodgers are 2nd in the league in hitting with a 791 OPS. They're 3rd in the league in pitching with a 329 ERA. The Braves are 1st in hitting, 2nd in pitching. The Dodgers are 2nd in pitching, 2nd in hitting, 3rd in pitching. I've got to put the Braves into the first spot now. They take over for the first time all year, the number 1 spot in my power ratings. I think they just deserve it. Again, they are right now have a 7.5 game lead in their division, 7.5 games. The Dodgers, as good as they are at 20-13, they have a half game lead over the Padres. So that's where we are this week with my power ratings for week 5. We'll see what happens in the next week. Next week, I will include Sunday to potentially Sunday, although it could be Sunday to Saturday. We'll see how the podcast scheduling goes. But this is where we finish for this week. Okay, let's get into the wrestling for the week. And I want to start with just some news, and I'm going to start with the WWE. So I mentioned last week about the releases that the WWE went through, and they added some names this week, some surprising names. So let me just recap. Last week, what was announced was the following wrestlers either released or they're no longer going to be back. That included Kairi Sane, Aleister Black, Zelina, Bo Dallas, who played Uncle Howdy, Nikki Cross, Santos Escobar, the Motor City Machine Guns, Dexter Lumis, Apollo Crews, Rowan, Joe Gacy, Andre Chase, Zoe Stark, Alba Fire, Tyra May Steele, the Olympian, Serena Linton, Tyson, Tyreek, Chris Island, Malik Blade, Trill London, Luca Crucifino, and some of those are developmental wrestlers that they released, but it was quite a long list and some surprising names in there. And again, I don't want to reiterate it. There was some question whether Kairi Sane asked for her release or whether they just released her. There was some report that she wanted to go back to Japan to wrestle. I'm not sure if that story is true or not. There's been no telling. Her messages seem to conflict with what the WWE has said. In addition to that, there was some rumors going around this week that the WWE and their owner TKO wanted to get rid of some of these darker characters like the Wyatt Six and, Aleister Black, Zelina, some of these kind of gothic characters, and that it just didn't play up to the TV that they were looking for. Don't know if that's true or not. I've saw reports that it is absolutely false. So I do not know whether that's true. It sounds kind of sketchy to me, but rumors get started out there. But then it was announced this weekend that 4 more wrestlers were released. That included Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods of the New Day, and then JC Mateo and Tonga Loa from My Family Tree. And those were really surprising to me. It sounds like Kingston and Woods were offered a pay cut to stay. They declined it. Look, there's going to be a ton of interest in those two. I would be shocked if they didn't end up in AEW. You think about the tag team matches that they could go in together. I think it would be phenomenal. I wouldn't be surprised if the Motor City Machine Guns ended up in AEW as well. I'd love to see them back in TNA. I don't know if TNA has the capital to pay for those folks, but we'll see. But yeah, Kofi and Xavier is the New Day. Would love to see them in AEW. JC Mateo is a surprise because he was kind of a hot commodity out of New Japan Pro Wrestling. And, he's a big name. Again, AEW seems to throw money around, so it's possible he could end up there, but not certain yet. Tonga Loa, I like the Tonga Loa character. I thought there was something there, but again, these are all typical cuts that come from WWE after WrestleMania season. So, pretty sad news, but on with the show. So speaking of shows, I kind of want to get into the WWE shows of the week, and we'll start with Monday Night Raw. So going back almost a week, and the show started with the Bloodline, kind of a not backstage, kind of a dark room vignette where it was Roman Reigns, Jey Uso, and Jimmy Uso. And they're setting up a match, setting up this dialogue, I should say, related to Jacob Fatu. And is Jacob Fatu going to join the Bloodline, or where is Jacob Fatu going to end up? Fatu wants a match with Roman Reigns, so kind of a good picturesque vignette. I gave it a promo score of a 6. It was okay. Sometimes I just get tired of the Bloodline and it feels like they're rehashing some stories. Granted, with Jacob Fatu, it does feel a little bit different. Seth Rollins came out first into the ring. And by the way, this show was from Laredo, Texas, the Sames Auto Arena. Thought it was interesting. When I looked at what this show drew, it drew 8,492 fans, and that's down significantly from Raw's, where I've seen them, do much more than double that amount. So again, how is business right now? I don't know, but that was a pretty low figure to me for a Monday Night Raw, 8,492 people. So anyway, from a promo standpoint, Seth Rollins comes out, starts talking about him being a revolutionary, all of that stuff. Out comes Braun Breaker, along with Paul Heyman. And the bottom line is they set up a match at Backlash. It was a pretty good encounter from a overall grading standpoint. I gave it an 8. I thought it was really well done and sets up a good match that we've wanted to see for a long time between Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker that is going to happen at Backlash now. So excited about that. We then go to the in-ring action, and the first match of the night was Penta in a non-title match against Rusev. And the end of the match, this one ends up going to Penta, but Rusev starts beating him up after the match. Ethan Page was sitting at ringside. Ethan Page starts joining in, and then out comes Javon Evans to kind of save the day. You could see this setting up maybe a Penta, Javon Evans versus Rusev and Ethan Page match. Don't think it'll be at Backlash. I think that while the while the final card is not set yet, I just can't see this going on that card. It could be, I absolutely could be wrong, but I don't see it. They already have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 matches announced. Triple H seems to like his 6, so maybe they will add that. We'll see. Next, Becky Lynch comes out and she gives a promo where she's saying that she wants to put her title up on the line for the right person. She kind of led everyone to believe that she was looking for a younger star, an up-and-comer, and out comes Io Sky. And Io says it's time for me to have that match and to fight you for your Intercontinental Championship. And Io claims, hey, I'm the one that should wrestle you. Becky says no. And then it was decided, no, Becky, you do have to fight for your Intercontinental Championship. At the end of the day, Becky Lynch retains her title by winning because Asuka interferes with the match. And that feud has been going on for a long time, Io Sky and Asuka. Of course, no Kairi Sane there, as I just talked about, but those two are now slated at Backlash to face each other, Io Sky versus Asuka. Next, we had a match between Rey Mysterio and El Grande Americano, and this kind of set up a match with AAA this weekend. I'm not going to get into it, but it was El Grande Americano Original, or OG, versus El Grande Americano. In this match, Rey Mysterio ends up winning it over El Grande Americano, and good win for Rey Mysterio. As old as he is, he can still win. Oba Femi then gets a match against Grayson Waller. Oba announces this open challenge. Anybody that wants to challenge him can come out and do it. This one was Grayson Waller, and in 1 minute and 6 seconds, Oba Femi wins it. By the way, the match is my overall match score of the night. The Penta Rusev match, I gave a 6.25. The Becky Lynch Io Sky match, a 7.15. Rey Mysterio, El Grande Americano, a 6.5. And then the Oba Femi Grayson Waller, I gave it a 7, mostly just because of the aura and mystique of Oba Femi. So, yeah. I enjoyed that match just because it's good to see a dominant character in Oba Femi. We then go to another backstage promo segment that is Liv Morgan, Roxanne Perez, and Raquel Rodriguez, where Liv asks for some time with Raquel Rodriguez asks for Raquel Rodriguez to move out of the way so that she can talk to Roxanne. Raquel leaves. Liv apologizes for everything that happened with Finn Balor, getting him kicked out of the Judgment Day. She said she knows, Roxanne, that you were close to Finn, and I'm sorry about it. And Roxanne kind of just blows it off. Not a big deal. When Liv leaves, then Finn Balor comes in and says to Roxanne, be careful. Don't stick around with these people. They're bad people. So we'll see what that sets up in the future. Ultimately, it led to the match in the ring between the Judgment Day, Raquel Rodriguez and Roxanne Perez, against Bayley and Lyra Valkyria. Raquel and Roxanne end up winning it. Good match. I gave it a 7.6. It was the highest rated match on the card. Went 9 minutes and 20 seconds. And again, Judgment Day win it. So overall, a good card for Monday Night Raw. Again, a little bit concerned about the overall attendance being down the way it was. All right, so let's look at NXT. NXT started off with a North American Championship match between Miles Bourne and Saquon Sugars of Dark State. A really good match. I gave this one a 6.6. It was a good match, a lot of outside interference with Dark State and so forth, but in the end, Miles Bourne retains his NXT Championship. And there's some dissension within Dark State right now. They've had 2 matches now against Miles Bourne. Miles Bourne wins both of them. This one went 10 minutes and 2 seconds. Like I said, I gave it a 6.6. Miles Bourne cementing himself as a star within NXT right now. So really interesting to see that and to see what's going to happen with Dark State. We then had a tag team match between EK Prosper and Sean Legacy. They fought Birthright, Channing Lorenzo and Uriah Connors. Sean Legacy came out and had to replace Prosper's partner because he was beaten up backstage. This match went 9 minutes and 24 seconds. I gave the match a 7.35. I thought it was a pretty good tag team match. You know, it is questionable. You look at Birthright, you've got a lot of good wrestlers there, a lot of legacy wrestlers, sons, daughters of former pro wrestlers. And they just can't get a lot of ground. They don't make much progress, which is just disappointing that they can't get anywhere. Lexis King did win the speed championship, but the speed championship doesn't really mean much. You've got Ariana Grace. I guess she's the TNA Knockouts champion. Charlie Dempsey, who hasn't done a lot. I mentioned Lexis King, Channing Lorenzo, Uriah Connors. They just can't really seem to get much going. Lizzie Rain made her debut against Nikita Lyons. Lizzie Rain, this rock star persona, she is going to be really good. I gave this match a 6.9, but Lizzie Rain had a finisher that was really, really interesting. She kind of jumps up and does this twirl kind of DDT type move. She ends up winning it in 4 minutes and 20 seconds, like I said. And I think she's going to be a superstar. She's somebody to watch this year. There was a promo in this one with Tony D'Angelo where he came out to the ring, the champion, questions who keeps giving him gifts backstage. Then comes out this individual who has a gift with him, hands it over, takes off his headdress, and it's that they haven't named him yet in NXT, but it's Evil from Japan who has signed a deal with NXT. So it appears that Tony D'Angelo is going to be feuding with who is known as Evil, but may have a different name in NXT. D'Angelo then, after Evil leaves, is attacked by Tavion Heights. And then this big guy, this huge young guy looks like comes out of the stands and gives a splash to Tony D'Angelo. It ends up being independent wrestler Will Cruz. I don't know if he signed to NXT, but it was kind of a shocking moment. And even the broadcasters were like, that looks like somebody came out of the crowd there. Obviously they didn't. They knew exactly what was going on, but pretty interesting way to build a promo. I thought it was done really well, actually. Next match, Ren Sinclair against Kalani Jordan. They had some heat backstage. Kalani Jordan ends up winning this in 10 minutes and 58 seconds. Gave the match a little over a 6. It was okay. I don't know if Ren Sinclair is the level of wrestler that she needs to be. She's got a good persona. She's good on the microphone. Kalani Jordan is way ahead of her when it comes to in-ring skills. There was another promo that was kind of cute backstage. It was actually not backstage. It was done in a graveyard where it was Shiloh Hill and Tatum Paxley burying Blake Monroe, who has now got promoted to the main roster. And it was this vignette done in a graveyard. They kind of like each other, Shiloh Hill and Tatum Paxley. So pretty well done. I gave that an 8 score. Like I said, just pretty well done. That led to the main event of the evening, Shiloh Hill against Ricky Saints. This was Ricky Saints' goodbye match because he also was getting promoted to the main card. Match went 12:05. It was, I think, the second best match on the card. I thought the tag team match between Prosper Legacy and Birthright was a better match, but not by a whole lot. Shiloh Hill ends up winning this and will get his character pushed. So good news for him and good news for the NXT promotion. Just to finish out WWE, let's look at SmackDown from Friday and what happened there. There were quite a few promos cut in this one. Cody Rhodes comes out at the beginning and Ricky Saints comes out and they do a pretty good promo together. I gave it an 8. Ricky is the new star. He is really good on the mic. They acknowledge that they knew each other from the past, which was obviously AEW. And I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, overall, good start to the SmackDown show. I gave that promo an 8. There was another promo backstage of Charlotte Flair, Alexa Bliss, and Rhea Ripley. Ripley says, look, you guys need somebody to watch your back. I'm here to do it. Charlotte wanted nothing to do with it. Alexa did. But at the end of the day, Alexa and Charlotte go to the ring for the match between Charlotte Flair and JC Jane. So this one, JC Jane ends up winning it by pinfall, clearly outside interference by Fatal Influence. That includes Fallon Henley and Lainey Reed. They were all promoted to the main roster. I'm really excited to see what JC Jane does on the main roster. I liked her in NXT. I think she's a really good wrestler, but she ends up winning this one. Pins Charlotte Flair. I gave this match a 7.17. Went 10 minutes and 5 seconds. Really, really good match. Let's see. We then go backstage and we see Brie Bella and Paige, and they say that they'll fight Fatal Influence, that eventually their actions are going to catch up with them and they're going to come after them. We then go backstage where R-Truth and Damian Priest are talking to Axiom and Nathan Frazier, and somehow R-Truth agrees to give them a match for the title, which Damian Priest did not want to do, but R-Truth is just, kind of silly, and ends up leading to the second match of the night, the WWE Tag Team Championship on the line, R-Truth and Damian Priest versus Axiom, or Fraxium, I should call them, Axiom and Nathan Frazier. I gave this match a 7.33. In the end, R-Truth and Damian Priest retain. This match lasted 8 minutes and 15 seconds. It was a pretty good one. Priest ended up taking control at the end, but then Tala Tonga comes out with Solo Sikoa and kind of beats up all the participants after the match is over. All right, so then we go backstage again, and The Miz and Kit Wilson are back there trying to play a little trick on Danhausen. They set a trap for him. Danhausen ends up walking away from the trap by taking $40,000 of Miz's money, and The Miz is very frustrated, and that will lead to another promo in just a little bit on the show. Meanwhile, backstage, there's a confrontation between Solo Sikoa, Tala Tonga, Jey Uso, and Jimmy Uso. Didn't know at the time why the other members of My Family Tree weren't there. Well, it was because they were released. But Solo Sikoa just notes that Jacob Fatu made a big mistake on SmackDown last week. And Solo says when Jacob arrives at the building, he's a dead man. And then the Usos come out. Tala Tonga slams them, and it leads to a match later on tonight. So big backstage confrontation. Next, Cody Rhodes has his match with Ricky Saints, and Cody Rhodes just gets over. Clearly, Ricky Saints was overmatched. The match goes 9 minutes. I gave it a 6.83. It was a good match, but, again, Ricky Saints is the startup. He's not going to beat Cody Rhodes. After the match, though, surprisingly, Gunther comes out and puts a sleeper on Cody and chokes him out. And we'll see where this leads. I don't know if this is going to lead to a match at Backlash, but clearly something's being developed there, which is probably a good feud for Cody, and see what they can do with Gunther, who's had a little bit of, I don't want to say time off, but he hasn't fought that much. He did wrestle, obviously, Seth Rollins at WrestleMania and beat him. Royce Keys gets a pinfall victory over Angel. This was a squash match. I gave it a 5.67. Berto was out with Angel, and again, Keys just smashed him. We had a WWE Women's Tag Team Championship match. Brie Bella and Paige, the champions, against the Irresistible Forces. In the end, the Irresistible Forces lose to Brie Bella and Paige, who retain the championship. The match was just okay. I only gave it a 5.5. I didn't think it was all that great, to be honest with you. Just didn't really like it at all. There was an in-ring promo again. Danhausen's in the ring. The Miz comes out and says, I give up. I'm with you, Danhausen. I'm on your team. It was all a trap. He ends up attacking Danhausen. This is leading to a match at Backlash between Kit Wilson and The Miz against Danhausen and a partner of his choice. So it'll be interesting to see who he chooses. There was a vignette done of Blake Monroe introducing her character. She's going to be on SmackDown. I believe it's next week. So they're awaiting her appearance. Obviously, a lot of history there in AEW with Blake Monroe. So there was that. There was an in-ring Sami Zayn beating up the Gingerbread Man segment, which was very childish, but Zayn is currently going through a character transformation where he's turning heel, and Trick Williams is clearly turning face, and they used this segment to keep pushing that. And yeah, it actually went over pretty well if you're into gingerbread men getting beat up, if you will. The last match of the night, the main event, was the Usos versus Jimmy and Jey Uso versus Solo Sikoa and Tala Tonga. Solo and Tala end up winning by disqualification when Jacob Fatu comes out and beats up Solo Sikoa and Tala Tonga. The Usos get disqualified. I don't really think they care, but it's not like Jacob Fatu was doing it for the Usos, because he walked right past them after the match. So that was that. And that was this week with WWE. So I thought AEW had a pretty good week this week, at least from a Dynamite standpoint. They're progressing this story with Darby Allin, MJF, Brody King. Darby Allin's fighting Brody King in the main event at Dynamite last week. That was the plan. MJF comes back. It comes out. He wants his rematch. He's not getting it. Brody King is in line for the championship match, and he is going to get it later on in the evening. So I really thought this was overall well done, and again, a pretty good card for a Dynamite. So MJF ends up fighting Kevin Knight to kick off Dynamite. It's for the AEW TNT Championship, which Kevin Knight holds, and it was a really good match. I gave it a 7.25. I'll tell you, Kevin Knight can really wrestle. He ends up beating MJF, pinning him, which was pretty shocking, but it really puts Kevin Knight over, and I love to see that. Darby Allin again comes out and saves Knight from getting a beatdown by MJF and offers Kevin Knight a championship match next week, which I thought was really great. So really good start to the show. We had the Brawling Brutes, the Brawling Birds. I want to call them the Brawling Brutes. Jamie Hayter and Alex Windsor against Emily J and Jordan Blake. It was a squash match. The Brawling Birds win it, and a good match for Hayter and Windsor. Kazuchika Okada fights Ace Austin and ends up beating him to retain his AEW National Championship. Good match. Ace Austin can wrestle really well. I gave it a 7.1, so I thought that was really good. Adam Copeland and Christian Cage fight RPG Vice, Trent Beretta and Rocky Romero. Adam Copeland and Christian Cage win it. The FTR is out there watching the match and kind of interfering in it, and as they do so, the conglomeration comes out and attacks them. And that's going to set up a fight between the conglomeration and FTR next week. But they kind of cleared house, allowing Copeland and Cage to have a clean match, and they end up winning it, as I said. Divine Dominion, the AEW Women's World Tag Team Champions, had a championship match against Chris Statlander and Hikaru Shida. Divine Dominion ends up winning it. Some tension between Statlander and Shida. You just don't know if you can trust Shida or not, but in the end, there was no turning on each other. It's just Divine Dominion ends up winning it clearly. It was a good match. I gave it a 7. Again, Divine Dominion retains the AEW Women's Tag Team Championship. Rush, who seems to be getting a push because he's been on a lot of shows recently, he fights Steven Fuerte in a squash match, ends up winning it. I gave this one a very low 4.2 score. This match was over pretty quickly, and just not really talking about other than the fact that Rush is clearly getting pushed. And then the main event saw Darby Allin and Brody King go at it. Match of the night, gave it an 8.15. Brody King, as big as he is, can move in the ring. He put a beating on Darby Allin. Darby Allin puts his body on the line every time he's out there. He ends up winning it by pinfall and retains his AEW World Championship. So again, really good overall, really good card, did a nice job, and that was AEW for the week. Ring of Honor had a ton of matches this week. I'll just go over the winners briefly. It started with, in some of these I was surprised. So Konosuke Takeshita beat Daddy Magic Matt Menard in 6 minutes and 43 seconds in a match that I gave a 6 to it. Overall, I'm sorry, that was my expectation. I gave it a 3.7. I was going to say it seemed really high. It was pretty much a squash match, although Daddy Magic did do pretty well in the match. He doesn't fight that often anymore. You had Shane Taylor fight Mance Warner. Interesting to see Mance Warner in Ring of Honor. Might have just been a one-time thing. I'm not sure, but Shane Taylor wins it in 8 minutes and 7 seconds. I gave it a 5.45 rating. We had Story Denali ending up beating JC Love in 2 minutes and 27 seconds. Story is a big athlete, former volleyball player. I gave that match a 4.7. Not a lot to love there. Again, it only lasted 2 minutes and 27 seconds. The strange one, Leo Rush fights Alan Angels, and Leo is just a very strange character. Not sure how much they want to push him or not. He did win this match in 9 minutes and 33 seconds. Thought it was pretty good. I gave it a 5.75. Deonna Purrazzo retains her. It was actually a non-title match, a proving ground match for the Ring of Honor Women's Pure Championship. She beats Remy Reed in 3 minutes and 7 seconds. I gave that match a 4.45. Not a great match overall. You had the Top Flight fighting Soleil and Gringo Loco. Top Flight wins it in 6 minutes and 55 seconds. I gave it a 5.5 rating. The Inspiration, Jessie McKay and Cassie Lee, former TNA wrestlers, wrestle Becca and Maddie Max in 3 minutes and 41 seconds. The Inspiration win it. I gave it a 5.25. Viva Van wins against Sarah Leone, and Viva Van, that's might be her first victory in Ring of Honor. She wins it in 4 minutes and 28 seconds. I gave it a 5.7. Not a bad match. Paid in Full is the new name of Brian Keith and Big Bill. They beat Vin Parker and Nick Halen in 2 minutes and 21 seconds. Again, a squash match. Gave it a 4.75. Christian XO, who looks like she's 7 feet or taller, beats Frankie B. She is in the infantry with Sean Dean and Carly Bravo. Both of them were out there with her. In 2 minutes and 19 seconds, she wins it. I gave it a 5.8 just because I was really impressed with Christian XO. TMDK, which included Mikey Nichols, Shane Haste, and Bad Dude Tito, beat RPG Vice along with Mark Davis. I'm sorry, they lost to RPG Vice. Trent Beretta, Rocky Romero, Mark Davis win it in 11 minutes and 12 seconds. That was a good match. I gave it a 6. Pretty well done. So those were the AEW matches, including Ring of Honor for the week. I just want to turn really quickly to TNA and go over those matches. There were 5 matches this week and a bunch of promos. I think, there was a promo related to the main event of the match, Frankie Kazarian taking on Elijah in a guitar strap match. So there was promoting of that match. Santino Marella has been reinstated as the general manager or authority figure on TNA, as has Indy Hartwell. Mike Santana had a run-in with Nick Nemeth backstage, could be setting up a future championship match there. Of course, Nemeth can cash in his tournament cup for a match at any time. Daria Ray is still in place as an authority figure, so I don't know if she'll work side by side with Santino going forward. We're going to have to look at that. And then Li Ying Li was ready to give up on pro wrestling and go back to her home country, and Tommy Dreamer talked her out of it. That's leading to a championship match for her in the coming weeks. So I thought that was interesting. And yeah, let's get into the matches really quick. So first match of the night, Jeff Hardy defeats Vincent. Vincent was ready to land a swanton on Jeff Hardy when the lights went out. And when they came back on, Matt Hardy was just standing in front of Jeff, blocking him from being hit. Lights go out again, and Jeff is on the top rope. Vincent is down. Jeff lands the swanton, ends up winning it. I gave the match a 6.83. It was 7 minutes and 55 seconds. We had Mustafa Ali defending his TNA International Championship against Adam Brooks. A 5 minutes and 56-second match. I gave it a 6.5. Mustafa Ali retains it. Let's see. There was a 6-man tag team match. I thought it was really good. Ali, Mara Sadeh, and Rosemary end up fighting the Diamond Collective. Mila Moore, Tessa Blanchard, and Victoria Crawford. Mara Sadeh and Rosemary ends up winning it. I gave it a 6.67. Pretty cool match. Really good to see Bunny, or Ali, as she's known now, back in wrestling. She looks really great, looks really fit. So really well done. You had Mr. Elegance get the pinfall victory over the Hometown Man to continue to push the Elegance brand. And then the guitar strap match, which I had as the match of the night, Elijah ends up winning it over Frankie Kazarian by touching all 4 quarter posts for the victory. So that is the week in review. I did not touch on NWA. Again, want to figure out how to best do this without getting into too much detail on all of these matches because everybody can get lost. Certainly don't want to go deep into every match, but like to let everybody know kind of how I see the matches, and this is how I saw it this week. NWA landed this new TV deal on Comet TV. So they are now broadcasting on television. You can get it. I get it on YouTube TV. And that's really great to see for the NWA. It's not the best promotion. Billy Corgan runs it. He does his best to preserve the history of the NWA. But, they don't have the top-notch wrestlers, but I do enjoy it. I really do. And they're going through the Crockett Cup right now, which is a tag team tournament. So they had their premiere episode on their new channel, Comet, on Friday night, and then ran another episode on Saturday. They're going to be on every Saturday at 4 p.m. Pretty exciting. And then you also have Major League Wrestling, who's going to be back on TV here pretty soon. So good to see more wrestling on television. Just to Go over a couple more news and notes, then I'll finish it off. Right now, Backlash, the card is as follows. Backlash is next weekend, May 9th, next Saturday. You've got The Miz and Kit Wilson against Danhausen and a tag team partner to be determined. You have Seth Rollins versus Braun Breaker, Io Sky versus Asuka. You have the United States Championship match between Trick Williams and Sami Zayn. It's going to only push Sami Zayn further heel, I'm sure. And then the main event's going to be the World Heavyweight Championship match between Roman Reigns and Jacob Fatu. And then you also have coming up AEW Double or Nothing. That's on May 24th. The only two matches announced right now are the AEW International Championship match between Kazuchika Okada and Konosuke Takeshita, and then an I Quit street fight match for the AEW World Tag Team Championship between FTR, the champions, and Adam Copeland and Christian Cage. So that's coming up. A couple other news and notes. Rebel of AEW, who was a backstage hair and makeup stylist, but she also came out and kind of was a manager and sometimes tag team partner with Britt Baker over the years. She noted that she's been diagnosed with terminal ALS, just very, very sad. She sent out some messages. There were some nice return messages, really good to see, but sad news certainly for Rebel. We haven't seen Britt Baker for a really long time. It would be good to see Britt come out and acknowledge it and say something or do something for Rebel. Not sure if that's in the cards or not. We will see. So that's it for the week in wrestling. All right, folks, that's it for the baseball review, the wrestling review for this week. I did my baseball power ratings. I will be back at you next week at this time, probably with one recording next week as I'll be out of town and I'm not going to be recording in my New York studios. But again, thank you for watching. Please subscribe to this podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you watch your podcasts or listen to them. If you like the show, give it a thumbs up on whatever platform you listen to. Follow me on my social media channels, X and Instagram. That's at TellusEllisHQ. And then email me if you have questions or comments, jamie@tellusellis.com. Again, thanks for watching the show. I'll see you soon. Take care.